Hello everyone, Shannon here for Hero Arts. In today's video, we are going to create these two cards featuring the December card kit of the month. I'm also going to share with you a really fun and awesome technique using the reinkers included in the kit to create these colorful and layered backgrounds. We're going to start out with the reinkers included in the December card kit of the month. These are all reactive ink, starting with Lemon Drop, Fruit Punch, Green Apple, Blue Hawaii, and the last one, which I hold in my hand, is a purple. It is Purple Galaxy. We're only going to be using the yellow, red, and blue for today's backgrounds. For this technique, you'll need an old credit card or an old gift card. I'm using my old zoo membership card. You'll grab one of your reinkers. I'm starting with the yellow, which is Lemon Drop. I'm going to squeeze a few drops down onto a slick surface, and then I'll spritz the ink with some water to kind of water it down a little bit. Then I'll grab my old credit card or gift card and kind of mix the water and the ink together a little bit. And that while doing that, they'll kind of the credit card will pick up some of that watered down ink, and then you'll just transfer it with kind of a swiping motion onto your cardstock or your paper. I'm using just some heavyweight white cardstock. This is Hero Arts Dove White. I prefer this over watercolor paper because it has a slick surface, but you can do this with watercolor paper. I then dried my panel with my heat tool, and now I'm ready to repeat this process for my next color. This is Fruit Punch. I'm going to spritz it with some water again, then I grab my credit card, kind of mix the water and ink together, and then pick it up a little bit with the card and transfer it to my cardstock. I really love this look of it because the watered down ink is layering on top of the previous layer of the Lemon Drop, and it's becoming orange in some places where it's layering on the yellow, but red in other places where it's still white of the cardstock. So you're getting this really pretty rich palette, especially when we add in our final color here, which is the blue. I did dry this panel off screen just like I did with the yellow. And now we are mixing our Blue Hawaii with the water and then applying it to the panel. And again, you can see where the blue overlaps with the yellow, you get green. And when it overlaps with the red, you get kind of like a purpley or kind of a mauve-y color. And where it's overlapping just with the white cardstock, it stays nice and true blue. So really, really fun. I love the way this looks. It's fun to try out different color combos. This is a little bit easier to do with reinkers, but if you don't have reinkers, you can also just use your ink pads by pressing the ink pad directly to the surface, to your slick surface, and then adding the water to that ink. But you do want to make sure it is a water reactive ink. Now that we've finish that panel, I'm going to let that dry, and we're going to move on to stamping our images. I pulled several stamps from the 6x8 stamp set included in the December card kit of the month, and I'm going to stamp them onto this panel of Luxe White watercolor paper. I'm inking them up in Hero Arts Intensified Black ink, which is a waterproof ink. And that's because we are going to do some watercoloring over these images. I'm going to once again use my reinkers to watercolor. And again, these are reactive inks, so they mix beautifully with water, and I just love them. There's so many fun things you can do with them. I've grabbed all 5 that are included in the December kit and squeezed out a little bit into this watercolor palette, which is also included in the card kit. And I have a bowl of water, my paintbrush, and we're just going to do some watercoloring. I do have the panel to the side here just to refer to it because I want to make sure I color these images with the kind of the same intensity of color that you see in the panel, so everything matches nicely. I'm going to start with the sunflower here and color it with the Lemon Drop, kind of straight with the Lemon Drop. I start with it a little bit more concentrated yellow near the center of the flower, and once I kind of lay that ground down with that darker yellow, I'll then clean my brush, and then with just a little bit of water in my brush, I'll go over that ink and kind of blend it out so we have a light gradation over the petals. And that just makes it have a little bit more interest and shape. So I'm almost done here with the yellow on the petals, and we're going to move on to mixing a brown. So I'm going to start with that Purple Galaxy, that purple, grab a little bit of the Fruit Punch, the red, and mix those two colors together. It was a little on the dark side, so I lightened up a little bit with the Lemon Drop. So grabbed some yellow and added that, and I thought that looked pretty good, so I went ahead and used that new brown that we made for the center of our sunflower. So I'm going to start with the outer edge of that flower center, and this is the more concentrated color here. Then I cleaned my brush, and with that residual water in the brush, I started blending out that ink so it has a gradation again. So it's a little darker on the edges and gets lighter towards the center of the flower. Now I decided I wanted to make more of a lime green for our leaves and petals, so I grabbed the lemon drop and the green apple, mix those two together, and now I'm going to use this new lime green color to color in the stem and the leaves. Again, the more concentrated color at the base of the leaves and at the top of the stem, and then with a damp brush, I'll kind of blend out the color so it has a nice gradation. I then go back in with a little bit of the green apple to kind of darken it up in some areas a little bit more. And now we're ready to move on to our butterfly. I'm going to start with the lemon drop for the edges of the wings. And again, once I've kind of lay down that concentrated color, I'll blend it out a little bit. I did go a little heavier with the yellow here than I had hoped. I wished it was a little bit lighter, so I do kind of pick it up a lot and fuss with it a lot later on. But once I get that yellow down, we're actually going to make a new color. We're going to make some orange. So we're going to mix. I first started with just the fruit punch directly to the wings, and I felt like that was still a little too red. So then I decided to kind of mix the yellow and red together. You can see me doing it here, and then adding it to the wings. And I also take some of that yellow, red, or really orange now, colored to the petals as well to add a little bit more interest to those, add a little of that orange color to those. And now I'm blending out the orange on the butterfly wings. And this just creates a nice gradation over the butterfly. So it's not just a flat color. We have two tones now, the yellow and the orange, which really steps it up a little bit. Now that I finished the butterfly, we're going to move on to the hummingbirds. I'm going to take some of that lime green that I mixed up earlier for the sunflower leaves and color some of the feathers on the hummingbird. Once I kind of lay that base down of the lime green, I'm going to go back in with our straight green apple and add it at the tops of some of these feathers. So we create a little gradation where it's a darker, more kind of Kelly green, and then blends out to the lime green. And once we finish with that, I decide that I need to add a little bit of red to his chest, which is so cute and perfect. This is just straight, that fruit punch. And after I finish with that, we're going to move on to some blue. So I'm going to grab a little bit of blue, water it down heavily here so it's very light, and add a little shadow to his belly and kind of this top area of the wing. And then I'm going to also take some of that blue and add a little bit to the areas that we have that green apple, just to make it a little darker. It's still not quite dark enough for my liking. Then I'll finish up by mixing a little black here by taking that brown that we mixed up earlier and adding a little bit more of the purple and the blue to it. And then we're going to use that black to color in the beak, the eye, the body of the butterfly, and the body of, I guess, also the smaller butterfly. Now that I've finished with the hummingbird, we're going to move on to the kite. I'm going to take some of that blue, water it down, and take that watered down blue and kind of paint it over the kite all the way, and water it down enough so it eventually gets to the white of the paper, just to basically make a blue kite, or a white kite rather, with just like a blue shadow. Then we'll move on to the tail of the kite, really the bows that are on the tail of the kite, and we're going to start by coloring the first bow with our key lime combo. Then our second bow will move on to our blue, and then we will color the next one with the red, and then lastly we will finish up with the bottom one in our yellow. So now that we finished the kite, the last thing we have to do is our little butterfly. Now I do color this butterfly in blue, but later in the final card I swap it out for a red butterfly. I just preferred the red color a little bit more than the blue. But the red, I just used the straight fruit punch to color it. So now that I've finished this butterfly, we are ready to die cut all of these images out. So this Also included in the December kit are coordinating dies for all the images, so I lined them up and then went ahead and die cut them out so they are all ready to go. With those die cut out, we're now going to trim down our panel here. I'm going to start with the side that's 4 1/4 and just cut off 1/8 of an inch from that. So now our shorter side is measuring 4 1/8. We don't need this 1/8 strip, so we'll just throw that away. Now I'll turn my panel around, so we're now cutting the longer side, and we're going to cut it at 2 3/4, which happens to be actually right in the middle. And once we make this cut, we'll end up with 2 rectangles measuring 4 1/8 by 2 3/4. So you can see I could put both my panels together. They're the same. We're going to put one of those rectangles aside, and then the other one we're going to cut into 3 smaller rectangles. We're going to cut the long side on this rectangle piece here, and we're going to cut it at 1 3/8. And 3/8 is actually, it sounds like a really complicated number. It's just a 1/8 shorter than a half. So you're almost to a half here. You're just cutting it a little short, just 1/8 shorter. So we're going to cut each one. We're going to make 2 cuts at 1 3/8. So we end up with 3 little rectangles measuring 1 3/8 by 2 3/4. Now that we've trimmed this panel down, we are actually ready to move on to these sentiments. I did go ahead off camera, stamp and heat emboss these. I then die cut them out with the coordinating dies, also included in the December card kit. Now I'm going to kind of put everything together. I have a foam adhesive already added to the back side of my die cuts. I'm going to simply remove the backing and start sticking them down onto those colorful backgrounds. Once I have those stuck down, and I also have the sentiment stuck down, I'll then remove the foam adhesive on the back side of my panels and stick them down onto my card fronts. This single panel one comes together pretty quickly. For our trio, we're going to start by sticking down that center one. It just makes things so much easier to get the other 2 rectangles spaced correctly. So once I stuck that center one down, I then stuck down the right and left one, and that actually completes the cards. I'll hold it to the camera here so you can get a good look. I really love how bright and cheery these cards are, and so awesome to use those reinkers for that fun swipey technique. It's a very cool one. It's one I've used lots in the past for some backgrounds. I hope you guys enjoyed today's cards and video. If you have any questions about the products I use, please check out the links below in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.